Africa alone could save as much as $103 billion every year by harnessing its natural capital in a sustainable way. Money that could then be pumped back into alleviating poverty, providing access to clean energy, and improving education and health. A significant share of these precious resources is lost through illegal activities. In addition, sub-Saharan Africa currently spends $35 billion every year on food imports, a vast amount when you consider that only 3.5 million hectares out of a possible 240 million hectares of land suitable for wetland rice cultivation have been exploited. For instance, Africa loses an estimated $195 billion annually of its natural capital through illicit financial flows, illegal logging, illegal trade in wildlife, unregulated fishing, illegal mining, environmental degradation and loss. These activities continue to happen in the continent despite the efforts taken to address them.
It is vital for our countries, first and foremost, to ensure that we have the appropriate governance mechanisms, both at the local level, the national, and the regional level. That is key in the sustainable use of our natural resources and in harnessing our natural resources. If we don't have the appropriate structures in place, then our people will continue to experience poverty.
The economic incentives for Africa to better manage its natural resources are compelling, as the continent alone could annually save as much as $103 billion, money that could fund development programs.
If we look at the major challenges of Africa, we can see that energy is a major challenge. We can also see that youth and employment is a major challenge. Harnessing in a sustainable way the natural capital is a great opportunity to really promote sustainable energy. It is a great opportunity to create jobs and green jobs, because transition to green economy should go hand in hand with the sustainable harnessing of natural capital. We need law enforcement, the commitment, the political will is there. What is missing is technology, the deployment of technology, and affordable and adaptable technology for local ownership.
The United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has highlighted renewable energy as one of the key solutions for coping with climate change. Africa has a great opportunity to make a progressive clean switch from fossil fuels to renewables, as it boasts of ample sunshine and wind which do not emit any greenhouse gases or pollution into the atmosphere. In addition to its importance to climate change, there is another compelling reason to develop renewable resources in Africa, and that is rapidly growing energy demand. The unsustainable use of natural resources can result in an increase in a country's GDP while it actually becomes poorer. Legislators can play a central role in making the transition to the sustainable economy by recognizing and taking into account the value of biodiversity and of ecosystem services through the exercise of their legislative oversight and budgetary responsibilities. They can advance this vision by pushing for the implementation of wealth accounting and evaluation of ecosystem services as practical tools to operationalize the vision of sustainable development.
We cannot continue top-down policy making unless we talk to the local communities, unless we integrate the different sectors of the economy, unless we talk to the marginalized economies and underprivileged sectors of our societies, then we're not going far. We have to capture the priorities, the interests of the different segments of the population. I think this is key. The other is putting in place the right institutional setup. Corruption has to be addressed. There are vested interests of different stakeholders which has to be addressed. People in high places or in the private sector, they have an interest in maintaining the status quo. And because achieving sustainable development for them may mean that they lose power, they lose financial resources, then they have to be addressed, and we have to acknowledge that, and we have to deal with them. Transparency is key, accountability is key to achieve sustainable development. I think these are all, and we acknowledge all of that, and I think a number of African countries now are taking steps to address this. Africa, and we all know, is the richest continent on the globe. Yet, unfortunately, we're still the poorest. Something is wrong.
Natural capital depletion is set to become a major challenge for businesses in the 21st century as population growth and climate change exacerbate the demands on Earth's resources. Given the severity of the risk, natural capital should be addressed at the board level and valued and managed in the same way as financial capital. Environmental experts are warning that businesses cannot continue to take natural assets for granted, and an urgent change in mindset is needed. Businesses risk facing water shortages and scarcity of key raw materials, which will disrupt the supply chain and make them vulnerable to price volatility.
Some of the gap we identify is in terms of creativity. Okay? You see committed staff, committed civil servants, but the space and the creativities are a challenge in terms of thinking outside the box, in terms of ideological framework, in terms of community engagement. Because that is a big problem that mainstream throughout, either in the parliament, in the executive, even with specialized body, that is there.
Businesses are now being urged to consider their dependencies and impact on critical natural resources and ecosystems with a view to managing or mitigating these impacts. Undertaking these analyses is of particular relevance to multinational companies with extensive supply chains in emerging markets, especially in regions already facing water shortages and air pollution issues. Environmental impact hotspots often lie outside of a company's direct operations, falling under the control of suppliers or further down the value chain, the end consumer instead. Natural capital accounting not only helps mitigate risk, but embedding sustainability considerations into decisions and strategy also helps promote the long-term resilience of the business. Furthermore, it can lead to product and process innovation, open new revenue streams and market opportunities, and provide brand differentiation. It is clear that over time, companies will make radical changes to their environmental accounting for resource use along their entire value chain. Companies that embrace natural capital accounting are likely to come to grips earlier with the major challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. Since Rio+20 in 2012, 68 countries have supported a communique that calls on governments, the United Nations system, international financial institutions, and other international organizations to strengthen the implementation of natural capital accounting. Understanding the impact of commercial decisions is where companies need to become better informed in order that the consequences of actions can be better managed. That's our program for today. Thank you for watching. Do visit our YouTube channels to view this episode and other episodes of the program. And you can also send your comments by writing to earthfile@channelstv.com. We'll see you next week.